Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very safe and well. Thank you for joining us for a very, very late edition of the Last Word on Spurs. And that's down to, of course, Nuno and the boys. We are providing you with instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur advancing in the Carabao Cup. My God, they left it late. But we've got a great show to bring to you. I'm delighted to be welcoming back returning guests to this show. Obviously, I've got my co-host firstly alongside me. I've got Jason McGovern back for Wednesday and Thursdays. Jace, how are you?
Very good, mate. I enjoyed tonight's game. Our XG went up to about 7 with that penalty shootout. So what can be better for fans to enjoy? Get that XG going up. That's what all tonight was about, mate.
Long live the XG, long live the XG. Also delighted to have back on the show. You're going to see him quite regularly this season. We've got the great Frankie Major joining us. Frank, how are you? Did you enjoy that?
I enjoyed parts
I say
of
enjoy it. Did you have one hand over the eye at times?
I did, but we're still in the hat. That's the main thing. I'm going to try and be positive. I get criticised a lot for being too negative, so we're in the hat. We've got the draw could have been worse. Burnley away. They're not exactly setting the world on fire at the moment. I mean, poor form, in fact. So, yeah, we're in the cup. We're still in the hat. That's the main thing. And there we go.
Agree. We're going to come on to the game shortly. And also, pleased to have back on this show. Going to hopefully have him on as well quite regularly this season. We've got the great Leon Emirali joining us. Leon, how are you? Thank you for standing late for this one. It's always Tottenham, isn't it? They always do this to us. We knew penalties were going to be in. We knew it was going to happen, didn't we?
We knew it was going to happen. I think it was clear for everyone to see. But look, the quadruple's still on. So what more can you ask for?
We're not counting the Fair Play League in that, are we? About quadruple rather than the other cups.
Exactly.
It's not Jason's Farmers League on a Thursday that we're counting, are we, Jace? I tell you, Jace, be prepared. Frank's doing you a lot.
Don't start on the checker trade, for God's sake.
Oh my God, it's been that competition. My God, but it is a win for Tottenham. Let's get straight into it. Spurs are through to the next round of the Carabao Cup, winning by 3-2 on penalties. Frank, I'm going to start with you. Tell us what you made of the game, Frank. Overall, happy to go through, happy with the performance. Enlighten us. What do you make of it?
Well, it was the good and the bad of Spurs, to be honest with you. And I'm happy with the fact that we're through because I want to go for these cups this season. I don't want to hear anyone say anything else. We are so desperate and devoid of success. We need a trophy. And if it comes in the form of the League Cup, I'll be over the moon, to be honest with you. But in the game, I mean, we started well. I mean, let's get some perspective here. Wolves made a lot more changes than us, and we did go pretty strong. We could have been 3 or 4-0 up. But the worrying thing for me about this side at the moment is as soon as we face a bit of in-game adversity, if we go a goal down or there's a bit of pressure against us, that sort of shaky patch turns horrible. And only Spurs could be 2-0 up in a cup game and end up drawing 2-2. I mean, I'm not saying only Spurs, but it's so obvious at times, Rick. And everyone in the fan base will tell you just knew there were people on Twitter saying when we were 2-0 up, you know this is going to win 2-0 or they're going to win 3-2. And that is what we have to sort out. Unfortunately, there's not enough character in this team at the moment to ride out the poor moments in games. And conceding from another corner is just poor. But again, there were moments in the game where we created a lot of chances. Kane missed a sitter, a header from a Son cross. Brian Gill possibly could have done better with his chance as well. We probably could have scored 5 games during the goals during the game. And I can't remember saying that all season as a Spurs fan. So that is the positive I'll take. But the negatives are still there, which are exactly what I said. When we're under the cosh, we will. And that has to change. It has to.
I mean, there was a time frame as well that we know Spurs, I think we were on like a barren run of not winning the penalty shootout for about 10 years. So to win 2 in the case of a couple of seasons, I totally agree with you. There still needs to be, I think you've heard me say this before, there's a real lack of leadership generally across the squad. And I think that's why one of the key reasons why the appointment of Mourinho just never worked. I think he relies on men being men, those leaders stepping up. And I think for Spurs generally, they're still, as I agree with you on this point, still to really find their way in terms of that aspect of the club. And whether they do or not, it's another question. Whether they pay that money to bring in those leaders remains to be seen. But let's come next to you, Jace, because we've got a load of questions in here. We'll take this is more of a statement from Nathan Lumber, who says, excellent first 20 minutes, then allowed Wolves into the game, scared of Adama for 10 minutes when he came on, got back in control of it and had chances to win the game. They're also not doing enough for me in the position he's playing. Jace, overall, would it have been an injustice, Jace, had we gone out of the cup? Or would it have been, one of those games if we hadn't gone through?
I thought over the 90 minutes, it was probably the right result. They could have nicked it right at the death when the shot landed on it just clipped the top of the crossbar. But then Kane, the save that Ruddy made from Kane's header was ridiculous, wasn't it? So, I think probably over the 90 minutes, the 2-2 was the right reflection. Tongi, you messaged me straight away, and Tongi's a baller when he scores, and then I message you straight away and say, there you go, that's why. And that kind of sums up the game, doesn't it? Tongi's performance kind of sums up the game. Good in patches, dreadful in others. There was probably, again, I thought, less question marks about Nuno tonight. I think, there wasn't all, there's not too many, hopefully, on his back tonight. We tried to play on the front foot. We got ourselves 2 goals up. So, from that side of the things, it's good. But the boys are right. As soon as we come under pressure, we crack. And, it was Delhi Saturday from a corner. It's Tongi tonight from a corner. And I don't know what a coach can. He can only pick certain players, and they have to do the jobs they're given. I'm sure Nuno doesn't tell people to defend like that. So we've got to find a way to absorb a little bit of pressure. It's like watching England's batting collapse as soon as there's pressure on. When you had the 2 cricketers on, whenever there's a situation England have to bat in, they collapse. So it's a little bit like that. But the main thing is the cup tie, we're through. We've got to buy into the quarterfinals because Burnley's one of those tough places to go, despite the fact they haven't won at home for 14 games. And I thought our fate was sealed tonight when Traore come on, because I felt incredibly more confident the moment he stepped on the pitch. And there again, doesn't even take a penalty, did he, Traore? So there you go.
Well, I do think, Jason, at one point, our defence looked terrified with him for the first 10 minutes, and then maybe woke up the fact that maybe the finishing weren't great. I know you'll disagree with that. Leon, pleasure to have you back on. And Mark on the screen there says a summary for him. The team playing some of their best football so far, but still almost chucked it away. We've got a question here from Omar Gunnarsson, who says, from Palace to Chelsea to Wolves, are we showing progress? What do you think, Leon?
I think we are on those 3 games. I think obviously, you're starting at 0 given how dire the Palace game was. So there's not, anything on that as an improvement. I think the Chelsea game, obviously, the first half was very positive, and then we dropped off and we didn't get the result we needed there, and we looked poor in the second half. Tonight, I think we were more direct, a bit more incisive, and there were moments where we looked pretty positive. So if you're looking at progress, yes, I think progress is there. Whether that is Nuno settling into the style of play that he wants to implement, whether that is the players getting fitter, or whether it's just the players getting used to one another under this new style, albeit it's not too different from what it was last season. But I think we are making progress. Obviously, Sunday's a different kettle of fish, and that will be the true sort of test of whether Nuno's going in the right direction or not. But progress, I think the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, and we'll jump straight into it. Let's come to the lineup ahead of the game, because it was a mixed 11. I think there was some concerns that would Spurs, go with a very weakened side, or would they go with one that has got enough quality in it to enable them to go through. So, Frank, ahead of the game, we saw Nuno name quite a fairly strong team. In that, we saw some fresh legs. Of course, we saw the central defensive pairing of Davinson Sanchez and summer signing Cristiano Romero at United. Obviously, and then they had his Atlanta colleague for Romero and Golini in goal once again. We had Tanganga back from suspension, playing at right back. Obviously, of course, both Lucas Moura, Steven Bergwijn remain out for injury. As things stand, I think ahead of Arsenal, that could also still be the case. We're still waiting for news on that. Obviously, as we recall, there's still Nuno's press conference ongoing. So if we hear anything in terms of that, we shall let you know. Tungi Ndombele and Giovanni Lo Celso continued their build-up to fitness levels, and both started against Wolves with Harry Kane up front, Heung-min Son on the bench. Frank, was that what you was roughly expecting? Was that stronger than what you was expecting?
I think he had to go strong, because if he'd lost tonight, he would have been under huge pressure. After back-to-back 3-0 defeats. So I think he had to. And we haven't actually got another centre forward, so Harry Kane by default has to play. This is the problem. But it's not a problem, but it is what it is. So it was strong. I expected him to go pretty strong. Ironically, with all the big money signings on, like Gio Lo Celso and Tanguy Ndombele, the standout performers for me were the kids. Tanganga, Skip, Brian Hill. They all looked like they had more fight and passion than a lot of the performances we've seen from more senior players this season. I really like the look of Brian Gill. I think he's going to be an absolute player for Spurs. Ollie Skip was brilliant. He was assured on the ball. He was comfortable, strong in the tackle. He crunched Traore, didn't he, near the end there, or sliding tackle. And even Brian Gill crunched Traore a couple of times, and that's not his main attribute. But a couple of early slide challenges, letting him know he was there. But on the ball, he's got so much ability, he's so comfy. And Tanganga, I think, is turning into a bit of a rock. He's a beast for us. So there were some good performances from the youngsters. And unfortunately, Gio Lo Celso, for me, I've had enough of him. I'll be very candid about that. I do not know what his best position is. I don't know what he offers his team. He doesn't bring goals or assists. He doesn't even keep the football. He's not even that tidy. Very, very disappointing for me. Other positives in that team. Sanchez had a good first half, but we saw a few mistakes in the second half. Tanguy Ndombele, I don't know what to say anymore. Off air, I was actually saying to Jason, for me, I don't know what to do with Tanguy Ndombele, because I feel this fan base, this is my opinion, we are so desperate for a talented midfielder that he's going to score goals and create. And I think we want Tanguy to do well, but we are ignoring the facts. I know he is talent-wise the best midfielder we've got by a mile, but he never seems fit, ever. He can't last 90 minutes at the moment. And we saw exactly what he's about. Brilliant going forward. He's got magic in his boots. But on the other hand, he's a complete liability at times. And I think Jason, he'll probably say this in a minute anyway, he told me before.
Well, he's beaming right now, Frank. Look at that smile. You're literally, I think you're literally scripted him. It's morphed into Jason.
But it's true. It's true. I mean, a lot of players you'll see on Twitter, I think it's more through want, because we spent so much money on him and he's got ability. The Spurs fans want him to do well. And I think that want misconstrues what they're actually seeing, because he's got all the talent in the world. But the hardest part in football is obviously the ability to make it as a footballer. But the easiest part should be getting yourself match fit for 90 minutes. He's had no international football in the summer. He's had a summer off. He should have been doing double sessions with a personal trainer. Whatever it takes to get himself match fit for 90 minutes, played twice a week. Yeah. So that is so frustrating, because obviously he's got ability. If you've got eyes, you can see that. But the ability sometimes is a liability. So, again, positive performances from certain individuals. I think on Sunday, some of them youngsters have got to start. Skip, I think, has to start. Brian Hill, I'll probably give him a start as well, with Bergman and Lucas are out. And Tanganga, for me, has got to come back in the team as well.
Yeah. We are going to come on to the good and bad of Tungi. Jace, let's come to you. Let's start with the good side. Of course, I'm going to start with the good side, because I'm not starting with the bad side with you of Tungi and Ndombele. To put Spurs one up, it was a sheer piece of brilliance really from Ndombele. It was all about being strong in the tackle, and that actually started from Skip, who won a big 50-50 in the middle, and then that allowed the Frenchman to kind of chase down over hit touch, ran through, turning sun and stroked it out home. And at one point, going one up like that, that's the great style we wanted of Ndombele. And I know you've said this a lot of times, Jace, because obviously I know people can kind of highlight and pick out parts of what you say, but that's what we love about Ndombele, and it's whether we could just see that consistently, game by game, and over the course of 90 minutes, right?
Well, as Frank says, I think everyone's desperate for him to do well, and people might be surprised. I'm desperate for him to do well. That's why he frustrates me so much, because of that. The good thing about the goal was actually that he's pressing, that he was hungry enough and he pressed high enough and got there quick enough to take advantage of the mistake. And so there's a plus point. Once he got past that first challenge, I'm not surprised he dumped the defender on his backside and tucked it away, because we know that's in him. So from that point of view, it's the good things. But Frank's right. We're all desperate for that to be seen for a lot more than we see it, and a lot more. Not a lot more during the game, and then a lot more games in a row. So, I mean, as I said, you sent me the message, Tongi, and
you both got excited as well.
I'm thinking, here we go. He's the Bayern Munich Ballon d'Or winner. But he's not going to win the Ballon d'Or.
I mean, that conversation after that goal winning, though, the other way. I didn't come back after that.
No, you went quiet then, didn't you? But don't worry, mate. But you said it was Nuno's Aston Villa moment, didn't you?
I did.
It's Nuno's Aston Villa.
Massively carried away.
But no, I mean, from the positives of it, as I say, the big positive wasn't so much the finish. It was that he was on hand to take advantage of the mistake, high enough up the pitch, pressing with a little bit of desire, and that's what you've got to see from him a lot more often than we do.
Yeah, we are going to come to the bad side of him shortly, but just to keep on the good side of him, Leon, coming around to you, that was some finish, wasn't it? You know, it was a lovely bit of skill, but it all started from what Frank said earlier. Ollie Skip, I thought, was really, really impressive. I think even that Chelsea game, which we won't want to touch upon just because of the nature of the result, I think he did, when he come on, add a sense of calmness to the game and allowed Spurs to kind of almost start building again. And again, he was really pivotal in that opening goal. Just how impressed was you with Ndombele for that moment alone, Leon, if we can talk about just that moment alone?
Ndombele, yeah, look, I thought there's so much you can say about him. We could do the whole podcast on Ndombele. And look, he that goal alone was brilliant. I thought it was a great piece of skill and technique to actually put it in the back of the net was great to see from him as well. Going forward, he offers us something different, which is he can move the ball further up the pitch quicker than most other of the midfielders that we've got, because he takes it, he runs with it, he dribbles with it, and he does a back heel and keeps it 9 times out of 10. But he loses it, and as Frank says, that ability then transitions into liability. But we have to find a way of making him work, because we spent a lot of money on him. He's clearly got talent there. My biggest fear is that we will eventually sell him, and he'll become the best player in the world, because he's got that in his locker. He just needs the right people to Frank shaking his head. Sounds like Jason shaking his head, but
he's been doing for the last 2 years, Leon. He won't have it. He will not have that. I'm the same as you. I think he will go on to become a really good player elsewhere. But
that would be my biggest fear with him. I think he's got something there. We need to utilise it, and I think it's a mindset issue. It's not and physical, because he's not in shape and he should be fitter. But I'd be sad if we can't get enough out. We can't get the most out of him, because there's talent in him. There's talent in him.
There certainly is. And then very much straight after, Spurs actually went 2-0 up, and it was that old combo of Dele and Kane linking up. It was a lovely through ball actually from Dele, which Kane took in his stride, finished it, fired it home on the run. And it was kind of a reminder of just Kane's finishing from old. Frank, that must do Kane the world of confidence. Was you ever in doubt him going through there he was going to score?
No. Anyone who doubts Harry Kane is a fool. He's playing in a team in transition at the moment that's not on the top of his game. So it has been a bit difficult for him. Obviously, after the summer, there was obviously a hangover from what happened. But he will come good. He will score goals this season. Dele Alli, it was good to see him first time pass. It was much better from him. He made a great cross as well to Brian Hill in the second half, which he probably should have done better with. But barring those 2 moments with Dele, he's still struggling. And I just think he's playing on the right side of a 3-man midfield, more box to box. It's not his game. I don't know. I mean, I've said this to anyone that will listen. I say it all the time. I personally think Dele Alli possibly needs to move away from Tottenham to reinvigorate himself and reignite his career. There's still a lot missing at the moment to his game. I'm hoping he takes the positives from tonight. Obviously, that's his first assist of the season. Am I right? Or his first assist in a very long time.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah.
The old link up of him and Kane, but we're just playing him out of position. And unfortunately, the balance of Dele and Tanguy Ndombele in the same 3-man midfield in the Premier League, it's not going to work. So something's got to give there. I probably, going against what I said earlier, my 3-man midfield, I've said this on the weekend for Arsenal, would be Skip, Højbjerg and Tanguy. That's who I would start with.
Right,
but
okay. Yeah.
I would over Dele. I don't think Dele is going to get back to the player he was at Tottenham. I just can't see it. Obviously, it's positive to see him back in the mix with the assists and an assist to Kane. But there's so many holes in his game at the moment. I mean, for the 90 minutes, we all watched the game, didn't we? If he wasn't at it, he missed a lot of passes. He had a couple of moments, but moments are not good enough for 90 minutes. We keep talking about players at Tottenham, particularly this season. Oh, he played well for 45 minutes. Oh, he done this in that moment. A game lasts 90 minutes. And these players that we're mentioning, they're not at it for 90 minutes. So I will take the positive of an assist, but for me, it wasn't a great performance from Dele Alli tonight. Better from Kane. From Kane. Do you think as well, Kane to me tonight was told, particularly in the first half, to stay further up the pitch? That was 100%. Definitely an instruction from Nuno. Play more as a 9. Not going more as a 9. Don't drift wide. Don't come as deep. I mean, when he gets frustrated, naturally he's going to come a bit deeper. But that's what we need from him. We need him at the top end of the pitch, doing what he does best.
Totally agree. I just want to pick up there on Frank's point, Jace, coming over to you. I mean, Dele in this game again, I think, to be fair, Frank, what he says there, he was definitely a bit rusty to start with, but he shook it off with that lovely pinpoint through ball, and Kane took it in his stride to score. Many will see that, Jace, as again another really hard-working display as he tried to connect the midfield to attack, and he played a great ball across the 6-yard box with the sliding gill denied by the keeper. But again, like Frank, others will just, again, look at Dele's game and be, again, unsure as to what is he actually bringing to the team. Now, he is learning a new role, and I've said before that I don't think that this formation actually suits Dele's game. I think I actually agree with Frank that when you look at our midfielders, I think this is his position, I think, would be replaced by Ndombele if he could do 90 minutes, which I know is, again, as we've said, as Leon said, we could do a podcast on Ndombele in general. But does Dele stay in that position, Jace, for you over the course of the season? Or is it too early to say at the moment?
It's difficult. I kind of think if we're going to play 4-3-3, and if you play 4-3-3, the two of the three up front aren't really wingers, are they? They're players that can cut in. Maybe he has to be in that role so that he can be closer to Son and Kane, and you can try and interchange that way. But I kind of it's the whole conundrum is in midfield, isn't it? That if we're going to try and look a solid midfield, then Ali has to come back and do the work because we know Tongi and Gio can't do it. And then you're taking him from his strongest area. And then if we think, right, we'll push Dele up front, we get exposed in midfield because we're outnumbered in midfield. So you leave Tongi out and you bring in Winks, and you end up with Winks, Skip and Højbjerg, and then we say there's not creativity. So we can't get that balance of creativity and defensive awareness in that midfield three. It doesn't matter which combinations it's done. No combination of that three seems to work at the moment. So until we get that right, I don't know what we do. I mean, Frank's right. We talked off air and we said he kind of needs the Jesse Lingard move that he got to West Ham to just reinvigorate him type of thing and get him going again. And I think it happened, didn't it, with Ross Barkley when he went to Villa in the second half of that season as well, so, something like that. But there's still the sentiment in here. And I know I'm really tough on Tongi. I know I'm tough on Gio, but there's the sentiment in Dele because we know what we have seen Dele come up in decisive moments for Tottenham. And yes, they're a long time ago, but with Tongi and with Gios and people, we're thinking, when will it happen? But with at least Dele, we know it's happened. So there's always that bit of sentiment in Dele. I think he has to be further up the pitch. I feel a little bit sorry for him at the moment because he gets criticised for the goals and assists. We judge him on the old player without thinking he's in a new role, and he's not that player anymore, or he's not allowed to be that player. But he's got to do more as the season goes on. I don't know where we'll be, but I don't think Dele suits being one of the genuine midfield three. I think you've got to get him higher up the pitch where he takes advantage of his goal-scoring abilities, because those goal-scoring abilities he's got for sure. And where it's a side that's lacking goals, apart from Son and Kane, I mean, Dele's more likely to score for me than Moura or Bergwijn. So we've got to get him in those advanced areas more often than we do.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, Dele, we talk about all the players in every single show. Dele's definitely the one that just causes so much diversity, I think, amongst the comments and stuff like that. So thanks very much, guys, for getting those in. Like I say, we'll keep sharing those on the screen. Leon, want to pick up on what I was discussing with Frank a bit earlier? That's Harry Kane back on the goal trail tonight. He took Ali's pass superbly in his stride and confidently fired home into the bottom corner. I think, as Frank also picked up on, he was a lot more involved than in previous games. This evening was playing a lot more of that kind of, central figure up front. Clearly, as we've said there, being told not to drift to the left. He tested ready with a shot also on the turn and point blank header midway through the second half. Tucked away his penalty with usual expertise in the shootout. Is that more like the Harry Kane we're used to, Leon? Are we over-analysing Kane at the moment because of the nature of Spurs' performances?
Well, not just because of the nature of Spurs' performances, Ricky, because of what happened over the summer with Kane. I think we're looking at
trying to avoid that, but agree.
Yeah, I'm sorry to bring it up, but I think that's why we're overanalyzing him, because we're trying to think: does he still want to be here? Is he still giving his all for the shirt and all the rest of it that comes with what happened over the summer? So he's been poor the past few games in that I've seen him in the league. I think at Chelsea he was pretty non-existent, to be honest, and just was absent. Tonight, great. He got his goal. Could have had a couple, could have had a hat trick. Great penalty, as you say. So I think it was more of the Harry Kane that we know. Let's not forget, he's always a slow starter to seasons as well. You know, he always takes a few games to find his groove. Even for England, I know he scored in England games, but it was against fairly ropey opposition. But you know, he still missed a few opportunities there as well, which was quite uncharacteristic. So clearly takes some getting used to the rhythm of the season, I think, Kane. And I sincerely hope that this now puts him on a path to goal scoring, to prolific goal scoring that we know he can do. Because I think without Kane at his very best, then it's a difficult season ahead. But with Kane at his very best, then you know we've got a chance. So yeah, I think he's on a good run from this game, and let's hope he continues it North London derby and beyond.
Yeah,
Can I just say, Rick? Can I just say, I think in fairness to Kane, you know, people are talking about the hangover he's had from the summer, but at some stage we've got to move on from it, so that when he's poor, all the supporters are hankering back to what happened in the summer. So we're saying to Kane, you can't be sulking about what didn't happen, but we're still talking about what didn't happen in the summer. So he's got to move on from it, and we've got to move on from it. And if he has a bad game, we can't be saying all the time it's because it didn't get his move in the summer. We've got to drop it as well, get behind the player, and then let's go from there. But his goal tonight, you know, from when he went through, before he hit it, his very first touch, I thought he'll score. He's scoring here, and he just drilled it as clinical as anything, wasn't it? Clinical as anything.
I think it's really important that as well. Going into North London derby, you look at his record against Arsenal. I think that's really, really important for him to get on that goal scoring sheet tonight. Really, really do. Typically 2-0 up, Spurs cruising. What do? Frank, we always shoot ourselves in the foot, right? Wolves, at this point, being 2 up, they showed no real intent or any real pressure on Spurs to get back into the game. But suddenly, as it is with Tottenham, a set piece. And, you know, we switch off from a corner, as we've done so many times already this season. It must be tearing Nuno's hair out. I actually caught a bit of the press conference before we came on in. That's one of the things that he's really frustrated at in terms of Spurs switching off from set pieces. And again, then Donker got around and Dombele. I think at one point, when that corner came over, I think he was trying to backheel, and I really can't defend that. As much as I've tried to defend it to Jason over the course of the last 2.5 years, I can't defend that marking from a corner. Free header, put it past Galini, and suddenly Wolves back in a game, Frank, where really they weren't even threatened up until that point.
Well, firstly, I would not have Ndombele anywhere near the defensive areas of set pieces. I don't get that. No, I would not have him in our box. You know, there's no point unless he's going to mark a certain area, unless we put the players on posts, which we don't, because it's just completely valueless. But I think you always politely remind us, Rick, after we concede a set piece or an individual error goal, I think that the percentage of those goals we've conceded now for 2 or 3 years is in the 80%. It's insane.
It's quite a frightening stat. That
it's a character problem. It's a mentality problem. And again, I said it at the beginning of the show. My biggest concern with this team, I mean, we've lowered the average age of the squad as part of this clear out and rebuild we're doing. And unfortunately, with youngsters, you get lack of characters and leaders, or less characters and leaders in your team. And unfortunately, when the tide turns with Spurs, we could be on top. We could be playing great football. It was so positive, the opening tonight. But as soon as one of those mistakes happens, it's a massive shift. It's not just a slight shift. All of a sudden, we turn into a completely different team. It happened at the last days of Poch. It happened under Jose. We take the lead, and then we start dropping back. When we're under pressure, let alone conceding a goal. And that has to change. The only way that changes, in my opinion, is to sign a bit more experience or better characters or leaders, i.e. players in their prime, winners who have possibly been there and done it. But we don't sign those sorts of players. So, unfortunately, the side have got to learn. We have to learn. It's been going on for too long now. And this cannot continue into the Premier League season, because it is a common theme amongst Tottenham. Spursy, that DNA, we all know it. Every Spurs fan who's watched Spurs for the amount of years that we've all watched them knows that is unfortunately in our DNA. We sort of got rid of that under Pochettino for a period of time when we were, to a degree, very successful for where we've been in the last 20 years. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's crept back in. And I don't know how Nuno's going to address it between now and January or next summer, when obviously more players come in. But that is my biggest worry for this team. And going into Sunday, if we do go an early goal down against Arsenal with our record there, and obviously with this that's been happening, it's a major concern, Rick.
Yeah, no, it is. I think generally, and you picked up on it there, Frank, that this isn't a new thing with Spurs conceding at set pieces. This has been a regular occurrence. You go back, Pochettino, Mourinho, Mason, now obviously Nuno. And I think every manager's probably tried a different tactic. But, I mean, to be fair, I know Nuno has not had long to work with the squad. But in general, how hard is it to get players to concentrate from a set piece? It is baffling just the amount of time Spurs are caught out in possession. And you just think, generally, Nuno has actually already said this, over the course of those first few wins where many of us were thinking, it's a decent start. I know there's been questions about the style of football. And of course, I think the jury's still out on Nuno to some degree. But to be fair, Nuno has always kept his feet on the ground, saying there's a lot more work to do. So I do think, Frank, that he's fully aware that these errors are in there. Whether he's the man to get it out of them, I mean, that obviously remains to be seen. But
sorry to interrupt there, but you can start with, again, not putting Ndombele in our box, marking Dendonka or anyone from a corner. That is just so obvious. He's not going to jump. He's not going to jump. He's not going to win a header in the defensive area in our box. He's not. So I think obviously he's learning. He's learning about his players. Nuno, he hasn't been here that long, let's be totally honest. But that, for me, if I know that, and we all know that, you can ask any Tottenham fan, again, who watches the team week in, week out, would you put Tanguy Ndombele on Ndombele marking from a corner, particularly anyone over 6 foot, and you would just say no? So that is it's down to the manager.
We said it off air. I googled it. Ndombele 5'9", Dendonka 6'1". I mean, it doesn't. You don't have to be a genius to work that out.
Yeah, it's quite frightening actually how that has come about during the game. What I do like, Frank, is you said about they'll be learning. I think Nuno, since he's come to the club, that beard is getting longer and it's getting greyer. So I definitely think he's learning, more about his squad. It might finish him by the time when you do a comparison between him and Nathan Redmond. By the end of the season,
I like that. I've seen that. That's brilliant.
I'm not sure if it'll be finished by then, but we are going to go.
I was just going to say, I mean, in fairness to Nuno, he learned not to put Dele in that position from a corner.
Yeah.
And so that's the knock-on effect, isn't it? So you can't have Dele there. Kane's, as we said earlier, Kane's always on the edge of that 6-yard box for that first touch. You got Bolly and Cody was on by then, wasn't he? So you're thinking, right, Sanchez and Romero have got to pick up Bolly and Cody, and you're starting to go through them. And then you're thinking, well, I don't want Tanganga to be outside the box to mark that run in, so he's going to be another one. And then you're left with, right, so who's it going to be? Is it going to be Dele? Is it going to be Lo Celso? Is it going to be Ndombele? And, whichever one of those three you pick, you're hoping the bloke wins his header and puts it over the bar, aren't you? The two headers have gone straight in our net.
Micah says, give it 6 weeks, so we have no one in the box. We'll be outside the box.
There you go.
We do miss Eric Dyer as well when he doesn't play on set pieces, because he's probably our best in the air.
He's a talker as well, Frank. I mean, I know that with Dyer, I know we do discuss it with Dyer as well, that he has got a moment of erratic nature in his game, and unfortunately, I still think that's in his game, but he's one of the talkers on the pitch. But I definitely agree that not having Dyer in the box, listen, for some, they might be delighted, but I do think on these situations, it isn't a great thing. But for our listeners on audio, we are going to go for a very quick break. Taking you into this break, we're going to hear from Nuno Espirito Santo, who gives his thoughts to Spurs advancing in the next round of the Carabao Cup. For our watching audience on YouTube, and thank you so much for staying up this late to obviously give us a watch. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. We are going to carry on with the show, and we're going to pick up with the equaliser for Wolves. Now, there was no changes at half-time for Spurs, but on came Jason's favourite Wolves player, Adama Traore. He came onto the field and saw 2 successful sliding tackles on him, both from the brilliant Brian Hill. A superb crunching tackle, which Frank picked up earlier on from Ollie Skip, who really did halt Traore's progress. But the start of the half, actually, Wolves wanted a penalty. Hee-Chan Hwang went down in the box. All came from Sanchez trying to outmuscle Kijana. However, getting it all wrong. Again, referee waved it away. On another day, maybe that would have been a decision for the referee to make. But Wolves' equaliser. I mean, Jace, let's come to you to start it, because Ndombele tackled in his own half. They break forward and Podence fires past Galini. But if you really analyse that goal itself, I think Romero could have done better. And Ndombele just ball watching. For everything good about Ndombele, this is the bad part of him, right? And I've been nice so far, but you can't lose the ball there. And it might be harsh on Romero. I thought he could have done better as well, Jace. What do you reckon?
I'll let the other two boys talk about Tongi's defending, because, I pile into him all the time and everyone knows.
Okay,
so,
should Romero have done better for you on that one?
Yeah, Romero could have done better for sure. But, and losing the ball there, you kind of hope that, they're not straight in at our back four as well, that this is the problem, I suppose, when Tongi's in that. That's what I mean. If Tongi's in that team, you definitely need the two defensive-minded players behind him to give yourself more chance to cover his inadequacies. And you see the inadequate when he loses it there, they're straight through at us, and that's going to be a problem when Tongi's playing in midfield. So, but let the other two boys talk about Tongi, because I'm not going to pile in on him too much tonight, because I'm done to death with him, mate.
You don't really turn up the opportunity to. I'm surprised.
No, I'll leave the other two. But yeah, Romero could have done better as well.
Yeah. Frank, I know you've already discussed Ndombele at length, but just to touch upon that for you, I mean, pickpocketed, as I said, spending way too long on the ball. I mean, is it a case that we just, we don't allow him to be on the ball for that long? Is that again a lack of fitness for you? Is that just a lack of concentration? He's done it a few times, over the course of the season, hasn't he, Ndombele, and also previous ones where he just dwells too long on the ball. Great at times with it, but he's got to learn to release it quicker, surely.
Possibly it's a fitness issue, because when your fitness goes, your touch goes and your concentration goes. But the positives of Tanguy is obviously the risks he takes and what he can do with the ball. Bruno Fernandes for Manchester United, he gives the ball away a lot, but he plays in a higher position than Tanguy. So the sort of Tanguy conundrum out, I would not have him operating in them areas of the pitch. I would have him further up the pitch, trying to create and where he can afford to give the ball away, and obviously play him in with a Skip and a Højbjerg. That would be my personal selection choice if I was Nuno. But yeah, what is he doing there? Big error. Undone all his good work in the first half. Spurs Twitter was so happy that Tanguy had that half, and it's true. Obviously, we forgave him for the corner to an extent, because again, that's not his key attribute. I know it was a pathetic and feeble attempt, but you sort of half forgive him. But that there was a bit unforgivable. So I personally would not have him again operating in them areas of the pitch.
Yeah.
If he wants to take risks, do it closer to Kane and the attackers.
I think if his team was down to Frank, I think Ndombele would be centre forward on Sunday. Would you reckon?
No, but you can understand my point, because you need players. You need your creative players to take risks on the ball. Yeah. They have to.
You also need players you can trust, Frank, as well. Like you picked up on, you got players you can trust in the middle there. If you're going to play him in that role, he can't afford to lose the ball there, can he, Frank? He just can't afford to lose the ball there.
No, and Ollie Skip, for all his youth, I couldn't see him dwelling on the ball in that area. I mean, he played most of the game in front of the back four, and I thought he was superb tonight. Yeah, and people are critical of Ollie Skip for not taking enough risks on the ball, but he doesn't really give the ball away in dangerous, or give dangerous chances away like that. I've not seen him do it all season personally. Yeah. So
that's fair.
Yeah, again, we could do multiple podcasts on that single player.
Well, I won't do it to Jason.
We could talk about him all night, but he's just got to get that out of his system and try and kick on. The positives with him is that's his third start on the bounce in a very, very long time. So
and in quick succession as well, I must add. Very quick succession.
And he did get to 90 minutes tonight.
Yeah.
First time in how long, Jace?
Too knackered to take a penalty, but he did get to 90 minutes.
I think quite literally carried to 90 minutes. I think that's probably the term for it. Leon, let's discuss Christian Romero with you quickly if we can. One early pass that Sanchez bowed him out with a foul before the Argentinian made a really good clearing block in front of goal from a Dendoncker shot. A good performance on the whole in the back line. I think obviously that second goal was Frank picked up on as well, and Jace as well. That one looked too great for him in terms of overall. But is it promising signs from Romero so far with you, Leon? He just needs to run a game, doesn't he? He's not really had that with obviously the 10 days away and what happened, of course, with Argentina and the South American lads.
I don't think it is good for Romero. I think he's been looking shaky, and I'm worried about him. It's a new league. Take time to adapt. I understand that. But not only was there an issue with what you mentioned with the second goal, but he gave the ball away again when the Neves shot that hit the bar. That will come from him trying to do his Toby impression by across to a ball that didn't go anywhere and gave the ball away to the opposition. So I thought Romero is a player who again obviously wants to succeed in his early days. I'm not writing him off, but the games that I've seen him against fairly poor opposition, and I'm thinking back to Pacos, for example, he's not filling me with confidence as the kind of centre-back, the commanding centre-back that we all wanted. Let's hope that it's just a case of settling in the new league, settling with a new centre-back partner, which obviously is chopping and changing at the moment. So, I hope that he... And goalkeeper, yeah, good point, Jason. Although he did play with Galini at Atalanta, but, it's a new setup. So, I want him to do well. I've not been that impressed with him. and I'd be worried about him coming up against, the Cristiano Ronaldos of this world, as and when that comes, against. I just fear for him against better opposition, and I'm not that impressed with him, but I'd be interested to see what the other thoughts are on whether he's impressed the other guys or it's just me.
Yeah, Frank, let's go back to you for a second on Romero. What have you made of him so far, Frank? Is it just a case that I've said he's going to need a run and games? Is that fair, or do you think so far from what you've seen, have you got cause for concern?
I thought he'd done all right against Chelsea. I thought him and Dyer done pretty well. They weren't at fault for much, to be honest with you. He turns a little bit slow at times, but I rate this boy. I was the one amongst my sort of friendship group and the people I go to Spurs with who was saying, he's mustard. This is the real deal here. I watched him in the Copa America. I watched the quarters, the semis and the final. Watched him a little bit at Atlanta when they played Liverpool previously in the Champions League and a couple of matches. I think he'll come good. I think he just needs a little bit of time to get used to the pace of English football. I don't know who we're going to partner him with, but what we have to do, whoever we're going to play, if we're going to go two at the back in a four-man defence, we have to nail down a partnership now and not chop and change. And for him, he needs a partner in a new league particularly. They can't keep swapping Dyer and Sanchez. But I can understand tonight there were moments. I get that, particularly the pass to Neves, but I'm sticking with Romero and my prediction that he'll be a top centre-back for us. And I'm positive that we signed him because we did need a new young centre half who was going to sort of stay at the next 5 years, be the lead centre half, so to speak. So I'm happy with him, but obviously room for improvement.
Jason's come around to you. He was paired tonight with Davinson Sanchez, the Colombian. He worked hard alongside Romero at the back, handled much of what came his way in the first half. Only that second half period, he did have one of those odd shoulder barges that doesn't really work and allow Wolves in for a decent attack. To be fair, Sanchez looked shaky in the second period. We're going off the back of the first three games where we kept the clean sheets, of course, with him and Dyer. At the moment, if I was to say to you, when we're going to come on to Arsenal later on, but if I was to say to you for the season at the moment, could you tell me your definitive centre-back pairing? Would you be able to nail down two confidently at the moment?
No, not really. Not confidently. I've seen bits of Romero that worry me, like Leon said. Only little bits in both those Pacos games. That the first, particularly in a weird way, the second leg where he was wandering around all over the place at times and appeared on the right wing, and he seems to sometimes go out where you'd like your fullback to be defending, and that leaves you big holes and things. But I think that's part of the adaptation. I think I said after Pacos, I can see him being the cause of a few goals certainly between now and Christmas, but that hopefully by the end of the season we're starting to see a much better level from him. But I think it will be Dyer and Romero. I think if you've invested the 40-odd million in him in the summer, I'd be surprised if he's not given the chance to establish himself. So I think it will probably be Dyer and Romero. But at this stage, and we all know with Eric Dyer that mistake is coming at some stage, isn't it? Even Eric Dyer's not. To think that we're thinking at the moment Eric Dyer's our most solid one, when most people in the summer would have willingly sold him because we know you don't get that solidity for a 10-game run with him. Yeah. So although I thought both him and Romero, I thought they handled Lukaku pretty well for 75, 80 minutes of that game until that last 10 minutes got completely stretched and kind of got overrun. But for 80 minutes, I think they kept Lukaku pretty quiet. And Lukaku's the biggest striker they've come up against or certainly the best striker they've come up against so far. So third
game on the bounce. Third game on the bounce. Lukaku has not scored against Romero, so that's a positive. And I think Dyer and Romero will pair well. And we have to remember, to put it bluntly, Sanchez is the most brain dead out of the three. I'm not having the first three games of this season tell me otherwise. Moments tonight, he's just got, out of the three of them, the most brain dead rashness in him. Those moments of, I don't know what goes through his head. So if we're nailing down the pairing personally, I'll go Romero and Dyer.
I haven't seen. The one thing I'd ask about Romero, Frank may have seen a lot more of him than I have. I don't watch Italian football, and I haven't seen that much of him for Argentina. Is he a number one defender? Like Harry Maguire is? or is he the one that wants to play? And Toby, for me, was always the number 2 defender. Toby wasn't the big organiser at the back. When Jan was there, Toby played well alongside him. Is Romero going to be the number 2 that does still need a little bit of talking, or is he going to be the one that actually, in the end, does the talking?
Well, the interesting thing was, and Frank, you can answer this, but we saw Ali Gold actually saying after we signed Romero that Spurs were still after a transformative leader. And I'm thinking, well, we've just spent the best part of what, 50 million? Well, how much was Romero? 50 million? 50 million? 60 million? What's going to work out to? 40, 45 million on him, whatever. You think if we're going to spend all that money, we still need another player alongside him? I mean, what do you think, Frank? Do you think is he going to be that leader at the back, or will we need somebody else to come alongside him in the next window, possibly?
Well, I think Eric Dyer is the talker and the vocal leader and the organiser at the back. And I think he's the number 2 defender. He's physical. He likes to play on the front foot. He does like to go on them mazy runs. That's not a new thing. He does like to sort of bomb on at times. But I think he's probably going to be the number 2 defender. You've got to remember as well that this is a guy that doesn't speak English and he's a young lad coming to live. And the culture in England is so different to Southern European countries, Spain, Italy. That's more matched with South America, with the whole culture. It's quite similar. Even in Italy, it's probably more similar to Spain, but even in Italy, England's a completely different culture. It's culture shock for some of these players. So I don't think he's that leader at the moment, but possibly that will come. Highly rated in Argentina. Lionel Messi absolutely loves him. And he was pivotal. He was their main man at centre-back in their Copa America win in the summer. Yeah. So I think once he settles, and obviously the language has got his key, he might develop into the leader.
Yeah, I also have a good point to add, and Jason Cunnington says it on the screen. He actually did come up against Ronaldo and was still the Serie A Defender of the Year last season. So, I mean, that's obviously a good omen as well. Let's come over to you, Leon, if we can. Japhet Tanganga, back in the team, of course, after suspension, dealt well with a lot that came down the right and had a chance of his own before half-time that he fired over from a tight angle. He actually fired over another effort in the second half, also some loose passing, and gave away plenty of free kicks on the night, but he was replaced by Reguilon, which was just before the penalties. But overall, Japhet back in the team after suspension. Would he be a player you keep one eye on for the weekend, or do you think Emerson potentially will come back in? How do you see that working out through the season in terms of that battle between Tanganga and Emerson for that right back spot?
I think that they're 2 very different right backs. Obviously, I think Emerson offers a bit more going forward. I think Tanganga offers a bit more solidity at the back. I think I really like Tanganga. I thought he had a good game tonight. Looked fairly assured and fairly composed, and probably should have scored actually. Perhaps the angle was just slightly too tight from Kane's ball into him. But I think the 2 of them are probably going to get a fair bit of game time between them. Emerson against Chelsea, wasn't wildly impressed with him, and again, look, it's his first Premier League debut. I get it; it's not going to be a rocket start, but I think Tanganga, when we're sort of looking to keep things a bit tighter at the back, and I think when you've got Reguilon playing on the left as well, who does tend to bomb forward, I think it's good to have that solidity with Tanganga at the back. If I was Nuno, I'd probably play Tanganga on Sunday. I think making sure that we've got that. It's not a game for risk taking necessarily, and keep it tight, keep it solid, and see what we can do. But I think between him and Emerson, there'll be a fair bit of game time between the 2 of them until Nuno figures out which way he wants to play. Over the long term.
Yeah, Jace. Ben Davis, Gentle Ben? Was it 5 out of 10? Then it's gone down now. I always say 6 out of 10, but I'm saying 5 out of 10 now. I've been an Arsenal bloke. I mean, I still can't. Do you know what? There's no offence to Ben Davis. I still can't believe he's still here. There's certain
basic Ben. Basic Ben. That's his name. It's just basic Ben.
Basic Ben. I feel so harsh. You know what? You look around this dressing room. I feel like Ben has also kind of almost like merged into part of the furniture where he wasn't even looked at in the summer wind. Almost could be overlooked. He's still here. Oh, okay. He's part of it, right? Okay. But tonight he got down the left when he could mostly, but left the attacking to Hill, which probably was a good thing. He actually made a crucial interception on the 88th minute to stop a pass getting through to Traore in the box. But he defended well throughout on the night. But is this going to be his role generally, Jace? He'll get Europa Conference League. He'll get the Carabao Cup maybe until we get more serious teams. Is this what Davis is?
Yeah, but he's been that for most of his time, hasn't he? That's been his role, and he just gets on with it. I still think he's better defensively than Reguilon is. and that's not saying much. That doesn't mean to say I rate him as a defender, but Reguilon still worries me defensively. So, but I mean, you're right. It was a typical Ben Davies performance. Nothing major. Nothing too bad tonight. He just gets through the game. He's just that professional way of his, isn't it? I mean, he's a better left back than Doherty is a right back. So he's not the worst fullback in the club, I suppose.
That's not hard though, Jason. That's not hard though, mate, is it?
No, exactly. It's not. So, and you know, Reguilon's obviously the more dynamic one, and I'm not saying Reguilon isn't our first choice left back, but there are times when I wish Reguilon defended as Davies does, not necessarily as well as Davies does, because like I say, there's still a lot to be desired, but I'd still sooner see Davies defensively than Reguilon defensively.
I mean, like Frank's picking up there as well, Jace. I mean, if on Doherty, I mean, he can't get a look in the cup games at the moment. I mean, what does it say for him? I mean, the thing is, I think everyone thought in the summer with Nuno coming in, Doherty was going to be given this kind of second reprieve. But I mean, we have to remember also, Doherty was Nuno sold him. So maybe he saw this decline coming. But if he can't get a kick in the Carabao Cup, I mean, you do wonder what the future is for him.
Well, he may. I suppose the only thing for Doherty, Wolves, all his success was as the right wing back, wasn't it? And we've seen no signs of him really as an attacking player at Tottenham, even when we have played that system. But his advantages at Wolves was as a wing back, and then Wolves started to switch to a back four, didn't they? In that later on in Nuno's last season, I think the last 10 or 12 games they played as a right back, and maybe Nuno saw enough to think, well, he's definitely not a right back, and if our way at Wolves is to go with a back four, then I can't have him. So I don't know with Doherty. It's I think his time at Tottenham's gone. It's just not going to happen for him, is it? Confidence is low. Belief probably belief and respect from the side are still looking at him thinking, don't quite know what you're doing here. So that's going to be a problem for him. But you know, it's not 1 or 2. I mean, if he goes, none of us are going to be worried, are we?
No, I mean, it's fair. I mean, Oliver Skipp, we've discussed Oliver, obviously shows strength in that big 50-50 challenge in the Wolves half before passing to Ndombele in the build-up to the Frenchman's goal. He then intercepted the ball for Spurs' second goal, potentially played Ndombele into trouble for Wolves' second goal, but it was a busy presence, as Frank picked up on, in the centre of the pitch, and he put some big tackles in on Traore, so it'll be interesting to see if we do consider him, for that Arsenal game, if he will start. We're going to discuss that with the boys very shortly, but a player I want to bring it on to that Frank actually discussed earlier, and we'll stick with Frank for this player, and that's Lo Celso. He did well to beat Cody in the Wolves box, only to tread on the ball and bring himself down, but he's still yet to find his rhythm. Came off in the hour mark, and Frank, we've got a load of questions in here, which I'm sure you'll be pleased to answer. Craig Silver says, for the last time, seriously, what does Lo Celso do? Time to cut our losses. And Matt Martin says, I can't help thinking Dele, Lo Celso need to swap positions. Dele made his name breaking into the box, while Lo Celso's passing range is much better, but his pace means he'll find it easier to find space deeper on the pitch. Overall, Frank, for you now, is it just a case that he's just no longer even considered a first-team starter for you, Lo Celso? Is he just...
No, he can't start games. He's not a starter.
So he's had chances. An impact sub for you now?
He's had chances. Mourinho actually quite liked him. And if you remember, when we came out of the lockdown and we finished the season in that little spell of games, he actually was one of our better performers when we sort of got into sixth. We finished sixth. That was the best spell of football he's played at the club. But it's been so up and down. And he's just another one that, because we spent so much money on him, and because we haven't got the depth, and because we are so devoid of success, and we want success as a fan base, we give these players so many chances. And he's been at the club now for quite a long time. When did he come? The window of 2019, wasn't it? That summer?
This is third
season. Rebuild window.
Yeah, the third season cost us 45 odd million with the loan fee and the transfer fee. I think it was a little bit further than that, higher than that, sorry. I still don't know his best position. I still don't know what he offers this team. Hardly any goals, hardly any assists. What more is there to say? I'm not sure on Lo Celso. I personally, he'd be one of the players that if he doesn't have a good season, this would be the last season I would give him. We're too sentimental at this club. Even at board level, we're hanging on to players. We're hoping we're going to get something out of them. If he just has another poor season, we might as well get rid of him next summer. And replace him and just take a bit of a hit, because I just struggle to see what he offers this side. It was awful again tonight, in my opinion. I don't think he offered anything to that team. he was awful, in my opinion, on the weekend. Sort of started okay, tidy, but not for me. He's not for me.
Leon, let's come around to you because someone actually said to me, if this was Chelsea, would Lo Celso, would Ndombele, would they be getting 3 or 4 seasons? I mean, what do you think, Leon? Would he still be here? Would he still be at a club like Chelsea? Or is it just you can't really compare that because of the nature of Chelsea and their kind of investment in comparison to Tottenham?
Well, I don't think he would be at a club like Chelsea. And I think the reason why we're hanging on to Ndombele, the reason we're hanging on to Lo Celso, is because of the ownership. I mean, they see these players as assets, and they see that as a big amount of money invested in the two of them on transfer fees. And because they haven't delivered, they're not going to cut their losses and write off a huge investment and let them go on the cheap. So the other option is to just try and pray that they come good eventually, and that they either their resale value goes up or they start putting in the performances on the pitch. So I just think that's the way the club's run. I think we all know that, and sadly it's a detriment on as to what's going on the pitch. But I'm with Frank. Lo Celso is someone who he's a bit of a luxury, and I don't think he adds a great deal to what we do. Whereas Ndombele, I sort of see as being slightly different. I'm not sure Lo Celso is different enough to the current options that we've got. But he does play well. I mean, for Frank was talking about Romero doing well in Copa America. Lo Celso did fairly well for Argentina. He can do it, whether it's the system, whether it's the mindset again. But it's not working out for him in a Spurs shirt. And eventually you have to cut your losses. Or a well-run club like Chelsea or others would cut their losses. But I think for Spurs, we're going to try and get the most out of him because a big investment, and we're not going to write it off. Not just yet, anyway.
It actually brings it nice onto my next point, Jess. Coming over to you. Question here from the Iron Dome at G_Division, who says, we've seen more from Hill in one game than we have from Lo Celso in over 2 seasons. Is it now time to start promoting Hill to the starting lineup in the league, or at least ahead of the likes of Lo Celso? Thoughts on that, Jace?
Probably ahead of the likes of Lo Celso, yeah. Although I probably still wouldn't start with Hill Sunday. I'd probably still give that one of those front 3 positions. Like I said earlier, I probably would give Dele a go in that role, purely because we know, like I said, we know what he's done rather than not knowing what they can do. But I think Gio's time, I think you're right. We can't call that the dream midfield anymore, can we? That's for sure. With those two, it's never going to be the dream midfield. That we cannot cover the inadequacies that each of them has in with just one midfielder behind them. So something's got to give. I wouldn't, January window coming up, I'd certainly be looking to bring in a consistent midfield person, and it would be at Gio's expense. And I think you're right. We've got to move on from it because we're into year 3. We can't sit here keep saying, let's give them a bit more time. It's year 3. If it doesn't happen now, you can't let it go to year 4 and 5 because then they'll be in the last year of their contract and we'll be giving them away like we had to with Eriksen. So, for me, I'd try and move on in January. But even if we couldn't move him on in January, I'd be looking to. We've got to bring someone into that area of the pitch. That's for sure.
Yeah. One player, Frank, that I know did impress you, and I know it's one player you do want to see more of, and that's, of course, Bryan Hill. Yeah, a real creative outlet, created a number of chances for his teammates in that first half. Should have really put Spurs back in the lead with a stunning effort from close range, that ruddy save. But I think that was a really promising display, and he scored a fine penalty in the shootout. But ultimately, Frank, what I liked about him, he just worked his socks off, didn't he? He really, really did work hard. And the great thing about him is that he's unpredictable on the ball. He's going to get you up off your seat. It's that flair that we crave out as Spurs fans that we love. Just how far can he go, Frank? I know it's very early days, but you must be very excited about the prospect we've got on our hands here, right?
I think he's a brilliant little player. I'm really excited to watch his development. Obviously, Paratici rates him. He was highly touted and rated across all of Europe. I didn't know too much about him before he came, I'll be honest. But he always wants the ball. He's got character because he shows for the ball all the time. He puts himself about. He's only a slight young lad, but he's crunching in tackles. His work rate's excellent. Again, you can tell a good player when they're young for how confident they are and how much they show for the ball and how much they want to get on the ball. He doesn't hide. And I like that about him. And again, I don't want to be overcritical of these players because I've admitted literally a few minutes ago that Gio Lo Celso has had good little spells in the side where he's offered more than he's been showing for a while now. But Brian Gill, you could just tell he's got so much more about him. For me personally, as a player, when he's Lo Celso's age, he'll be levels above him personally. And I think we needed one more in attack. As well as Hill, I would have got another attacker. I think we were sort of mucking around with Traore, weren't we, offering whatever we offered on deadline day or whatever. So I still think we're a little bit light, as these injuries have shown us. But he's for me, going to work out to be a top signing for this club. And I'll put money on it.
Yeah. No, he is, like I say, very exciting. Leon, coming around to you from what you've seen of him very early on, you know, a lot of, as I comments flooding through here, you know, about Gill very quickly becoming a lot of Spurs fans' favourite players, and that just tells you what they think probably of the rest of the squad in general. But how excited are you by him, Leon? Would he be a player that you'd be looking to now integrate into Premier League games? Or do you think it is still far too early? You still give him, like, say, the Cup games, the Europa Conference League, just to bed in slowly before you throw him into the hustle and bustle of the Premier League?
I'd throw him into the hustle and bustle of the Premier League, but I'm not a Premier League manager, so I'm sure there are others that know better than me. But you know, I like him because he's the kind of player who can turn a game on its head and create something out of nothing. And we've not really had many of those players certainly over this season, over the past season. And if he can add goals to his game, then I think he's going to be a really formidable force for the team. And I think playing the way he does, he can just pick up the ball, run with it, do something with it, take on a player, get past the player and create space. And that's something that we've been missing. I'm really excited by him. I'd certainly consider him for Arsenal on Sunday because, as I say, he is the type of player who just conjures something. And when Spurs are struggling to sort of build up play, basically, which is where we've all struggled because of the deficiencies in midfield, he bypasses that. So yeah, let's see what he can do. Let's throw him into the Lions pit, and if he comes out well, then I think we've got a gem on our hands. I share Frank's excitement on that. Yeah.
Normally, Jason, I've asked you about these kind of players. You always kind of say, look, you know, don't get carried away. Keep your feet on the ground. You know, he's very, very young, of course. He came in the summer with probably one eye on him being a player that we would integrate slowly. But bearing in mind some of the players that we've got here, would you be looking to maybe fast track him and look to bring him into the Premier League fairly quickly in terms of a starting 11?
Well, I think he will get his chances for sure in the Premier League. And if it wasn't Arsenal Sunday, perhaps if it was Villa this week, perhaps I would throw him in against them. It's just I'm looking at Arsenal being maybe not the fixture that I'd want to see him in, not from the start at the moment. And certainly not with Ndombele and him in the side at Arsenal together. But, you know, again, you can see the talent. We just need to find out how consistent. I mean, he came on Sunday, was shrugged off the ball too easily. Nothing, didn't look to do anything on Sunday, anything. But that's Chelsea at there. So, you know, perhaps the lower bottom half teams is where he starts to get those opportunities to show his abilities more so than in the really top games. And then it's up to him how much he delivers in those games, doesn't it? I mean, I don't think that the checker trade is really going to tell us too much about players, honestly. I don't think, you know, if he looks a sparkler against Rennes, I think it's so different from a Premier League game. And it's you know, if you can have a sparkler at Rochdale in a cup tie, but it doesn't mean to say you're going to do it in a Premier League game, does it? Yeah. So, you know, they just keep ticking over, and you hope to see something a bit like Lamella's Rabona against Asteros, but then, you know, there wasn't much in the Premier League, was there? So let's just wait and see. But hopefully, as the season goes on, I think we'll see more of him. But somewhere we've got to get more creativity, and we've got to get more goals in the team. The thing is, do I want to see Hill up there, or do I want to see somebody else there? I probably still would, like I say, for me, I'd push Dele further forward Sunday. But if it wasn't the Arsenal game, I may well play Hill from the start.
Before we do look ahead to Arsenal, I want to just quickly recap the actual shootout itself. Jason, I want to ask you just quickly on Traore. Has your thoughts changed based on that performance? Would you be looking to sign him up in January?
No.
Nothing changing, no?
No. I'd look at Dagenham and Redbridge winger in front of Traore. That's what I like. I mean, if I was going to do that, I'd far sooner have some Maximan than I would Traore.
I like some Maximan. I mean,
I like some Maximan. Listen, Jason, Traore improves us. I'm telling you, I don't want to listen to XGM products, anything like that.
If he passes to Kane and Son, who cares though? If he passes
Kane and Son, everyone's numbers around him in this side would go up because he's never played with clinical players like Kane and Son in his whole career. He's not.
I think
played in
Jason
the
is
Spanish
too worried.
squad.
I think Jason's too worried, Frank, about his finishing. But if he's got Kane and Son there, who cares? He has to pass it to them.
By the way, in that Spain squad he's been in for the last 2 years, no one is even near close to as clinical as Kane and Son. No one. There isn't. So he does split opinion, Traore, but he improves us. He gets in our starting 11. Son, Kane and Traore. Oh, come on. You're telling me Bergwijn and Lucas, he's 10 times more effective than Bergwijn and Lucas. You ask any fullback, who would you rather play against? Steven Bergwijn, Lucas or Armando Traore? They will say, I don't want to play against Traore. That's a fact.
I've just seen too many busy ball boys when I've seen Traore on the pitch. too many times the ball boy is on the end of his final ball. Like I say, give me Sam Maximam over Traore all the time.
He's a good player. I like Sam Maximam. He's a good player. Right, guys, let's quickly recap on the shootout. We saw Wayne score the first goal for Wolves, and Galini got a hand to it. Kane expertly firing on his spot kick, of course. Martino made it 2-1 to Wolves. Of course, Martino was going to score on the back of Spurs trying to buy him. That was always going to happen. Reguilon presumably brought on for the penalties, sent Ruddy the wrong way. It's funny because, the last few weeks we've been discussing about, tactical decisions from Nuno. That was an interesting one, Frank. What did you make of that? Reguilon coming on very last minute for a penalty, put it away.
It worked, didn't it?
It did. We've got to give Nuno some credit for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, if we're giving Thomas Tuchel credit for bringing on Kepa, and no, it's true in the Super Cup, and then he wins you a shootout, or Van Gaal done it, didn't he, in the World Cup with Tim Krul. You've got to give Nuno credit because it worked. It was a great penalty. The two lefties, I love both of their penalties. They were
good penalties, weren't they? Very good penalties. Yeah.
Højbjerg's was absolutely horrid. I don't know what that was.
What happened there, Frank? What happened there to Højbjerg?
Tried to do the James Beattie, didn't he? Do you remember James Beattie used to put it down, walk away, turn and quickly, do it all in a quick motion? But it was an awful penalty. But the first three were brilliant. Crackers, who obviously is a presenter on this show, he tweeted saying the first 3 penalties were beautiful, and they were great pens.
They were. I mean, like I said, Neves obviously blasting over as well. Hill tucking his penalty away really well. Galini saving Dendonka's spot kick as well. And I didn't have Cody down to actually miss for Wolves, which obviously sent Spurs through. Jace, I want to ask you about Galini because he didn't have much to do other than pick the ball out of his net for Dendonka's powerful header and then Poland's pinpoint curling shot. But, he then made that save in the shootout. That'll give him the world of confidence because we understand he's got to make, from what we're told now, it's actually 20 games to trigger Spurs buying him. On another showing of Galini, anything there to take away at the moment? Are you confident that he can be that long-term replacement to Lloris? Bearing in mind, some were concerned about that performance that we did see against Rennes.
Can I just go back to Reguilon's penalty? Of course, England brought on Sancho and Saka, and Sancho and Saka, and they both. Who was it in missing? Sancho and Rashford. Sancho and Rashford came off. We saw Mark Noble come straight off the bench and miss Sunday. I think Jamie Carragher famously did it, didn't he? In a World Cup, came off the bench to take a penalty and missed. So full credit to Reguilon, first touch of the game, and puts it away quite calmly. If only he'd have thought and been as positive with that on Sunday when that first chance came for him. With Galini, I think we talked about him last week. It's for me, I'd be sitting down with Hugo saying, what do you want to do? And if Hugo wants to stay another year or two, I'd be looking to sign Hugo up. So I still think Hugo's our best. We saw it Sunday. Hugo was exceptional on Sunday. So, and then if Hugo wants to go, then if Hugo said to me, I do want to leave at the end of the year, then I think you've got to start playing Galini in Premier League games, certain Premier League games, before we have to make that decision. That's for sure. And you might get to 19 games before and then say, right, you ain't playing another one, or we'll definitely trigger the 20th game. But you're going to have a look at him in the Premier League games before you can make a real assumption of it. I mean, we saw, lots of people used to think Gazzaniga looked good when he came in for cup ties, and then when actually Gazzaniga had a run in the Premier League, he suddenly looked at him and thought, you are genuinely a number 2 goalkeeper, not a number 1. So the jury's out. But all you can say on Galini is he played a lot for Atalanta. They kept 10 clean sheets. They qualified for the Champions League. So at least he is a number 1 goalkeeper, and as with the potential to be, which is a lot more than Gazzaniga ever was.
Yep. Leon, just in terms of that shootout, Spurs going through, of course, what will that do for the squad ahead of Arsenal before we look ahead to that in a couple of minutes? Will that really kind of, again, bring that squad together in what's been, it's been a difficult summer, for Nuno as well. He's not had a huge amount of time to work with the players, to be honest with you. When you think about collectively the RG boys and obviously the South American guys going away for that period, it's been he hasn't really had that long. So is a night like tonight one where that does kind of, again, bring that squad together. Penalty shootout again, kind of against adversity. We lose a 2-0 lead. I think, I'll be honest, this show could have gone a lot differently, right? If we were 2-0 up, lost the shootout, I think our mood on it would be so different going into Arsenal. But the fact we have gone through, how does that feel for the squad, do you reckon?
Yeah, in a way, I'm quite pleased it went the way it did to penalties without the extra time. I think I'm glad that that's been scrapped, and obviously keeps the players fresh, because I think you have got a certain heightened sense of victory after a shootout win, because it could go either way. I think it's good for camaraderie amongst the squad. I think it's good for confidence amongst the squad compared to just a narrow win in normal time. So yeah, I think it has a minor impact on the mindset of the team going into Sunday. And as I say, I think that's quite positive. And again, good for Kane to put the ball in the back of the net so confidently in the way that he did. Again, as he sort of looks to find his groove, his goal scoring groove. So I'm glad we won on penalties. I'm glad we didn't go to extra time. And I think it puts us in a slightly psychological advantage going into North London derby.
Agree. Now, ahead of this North London derby, we haven't had any news yet from Nuno Espirito Santo in terms of players out, but we are going to go for our final break of the show. Taking you into this break, we're going to hear from Harry Symeou for our guys on audio from Chronicles of a Gooner, giving his preview ahead of the game on Sunday. When we return, of course, we'll get straight into that North London derby. For our watching audience on YouTube, and thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get into that right now. To be fair, not much coming out of Nuno's press conference ahead of this one. Obviously, Arsenal, they're also through to the next round of the Carabao Cup after advancing against Wimbledon. Probably no surprise there at all. For Spurs, obviously, the draw, it's away to Burnley. So, listen, there's probably tougher ties to come, but we said it won't be easy. Burnley, again, Premier League side. Jason, one of your favourite places, Jason, what do you normally say? Not a tough place to go? Or how do you normally phrase it?
It's a tough place to go, but they haven't won at home in 14 games, so that's how tough it is.
Yeah. But I'm sure we'll make it tough because it's Tottenham, right? I'm sure we'll make it difficult, and with a whole host of injuries going into that as well. So that's one to keep an eye on for the next couple of weeks. And of course, like every game, we'll be covering that on the Last Word on Spurs. But let's discuss the North London derby. It's one of those games really we never do well at the Emirates, to be fair. Frank, Arsenal, they opened their campaign, of course, with 3 top-flight defeats, having registered or really any goals at all, but then they've rallied now to register back-to-back wins, 1-0s over both Norwich and Burnley. I mean, it's been hardly eye-catching, but they are coming into obviously some kind of form now. They saw Martin Odegaard do the damage at Turf Moor with that fine free kick. What's your feeling going into it, Frank? Now, obviously, hopefully on the back of a win, you're feeling a little bit easier going into it, or not necessarily?
Form typically goes out the window with these North London derbies. However, they've steadied the ship. Listen, anyone really out of the bigger clubs should be able to beat Norwich and Burnley. Norwich as well, particularly. They are terrible. Burnley second bottom. Norwich bottom, Burnley second bottom. Is that right in the table? I think Burnley 1 draw, haven't they? 4 losses.
We can check that for you. We can check that now. Let's have a look.
Well, they're in the bottom 3. They're 2 terrible sides, and obviously AFC Wimbledon tonight. But
yeah.
They're in a
Burnley are second bottom. Yeah, so Burnley 19th, Norwich 20th. Yeah,
beaten 20th and 19th. We've had tougher tests so far, we've come through tougher tests. I.e., we beat Man City at home. I know Chelsea battered us, but they lost to Man City 5-0. Brentford beat them. Yeah, but it's as you
Chelsea
said,
beat them as well.
Chelsea beat them as well, but they absolutely battered them. That was 3-0 as well, wasn't it? But we don't travel well there. I mean, I've been there 3 times, I think. Drawn 1, lost 2. Horrible away game. I'm not confident. I'll be totally honest with you. I'm not. Regardless of going through on penalties tonight, we still go away a 2-0 lead. I think someone actually said that in the comments, which obviously isn't a good trait carrying into that game. But I would be happy with a draw. Jason said off air before the game as well, you take a draw now. I said, absolutely, because we don't travel well there. It's a huge game. And if we do go there and lose 2-3-0 or get battered or don't play well, Nuno is going to be under huge pressure. Perspective, obviously, he's still early into his job, but that doesn't matter. The media frenzy, the fans on Twitter, the fans in general will jump all over him if we don't show up and we get battered there. Yeah. So it's a big game for Nuno. It's a huge game for Nuno.
Is it performance for you, Frank? Is it, just to be clear, for you, it's just the case that you just want to see Spurs turn up right in terms of a performance?
performances have got to get better. There's no doubt about that. And we can all pick patches from tonight and say it's positive. Wolves made 10 changes. In the league, the facts are we've been beaten at Crystal Palace 3-0. We've been beaten at home by Chelsea 3-0. Even in the 3 wins we took at the beginning of the season in the league, the performances weren't great, barring one second half against Man City. The Wolves' performance was poor. We were very, very lucky. And Watford's second half was pretty decent, really. But it's Watford, the newly promoted team. How many goals we scored from open play in the league? One. Is it 1 goal? 1 goal.
Just the one, yeah.
It's the one. So we need to see a performance. Obviously, we need a result as well. I'm not being greedy here, but we need to do a lot better than we've been doing, Rick. We've got to be honest here.
We have got.
We can't come on here and just pretend to be positive. And
no, I mean,
because we're doing the podcast.
Let's be honest about it. If he didn't win tonight, he would be under massive. I mean, listen, I said at the start of the week, it's a defining week for him. I didn't mean that in terms of his job, but I do think in terms of fans' expectations. He's expected to go to Wolves and get the win because it is Wolves and Tottenham as a club. They need to be taking the cup seriously. So he has got that done, however horrendous it was that we dropped a 2-0 lead. And I agree with you, Frank, that I think we're expecting to see at least a performance against Arsenal because I think what we have to say is, whatever we said about Pochettino and Mourinho in the past is both of them understood that derby and they did get the players fired up, right? Bearing in mind, obviously, last season under Mourinho, the 2-1 at the Emirates. I think generally, and both of them understood what that game meant. And I think Nuno will need to understand that very quickly if he is to last at Spurs for quite some time.
We need to play well. And there's no point, again, it's early days. I know a lot's changed, but there is no point in sacking Jose Mourinho to get Nuno into play like this in the league. There isn't. There's no difference to me, apart from the results in the first 3 games. Yeah. 1 goal from open play in our first 5 Premier League games.
Yeah, that has improved. No,
we've got rid of Jose because we want to play on the front foot. We want to go back to how we played under Pochettino. And I think a lot of Spurs fans, whether it's right or wrong, will accept playing good football over results at times, which is a little bit of a criticism of mine. But you show up, you pay your money, you want to see football. At the end of the day, we're all fans.
Yeah,
if the players have a go, we put in a performance, there's energy, we're passing the football better, we're creating chances, and we lose 1-0, for instance. The pressure will still be on, but personally, I think there's been an improvement there. We've had a go sort of thing. If we show up there and we sit off them and we just soak the pressure up and we try and make them on the counter attack, then I don't know. I mean, listen, let's be totally honest, guys, and people who are listening. Have you been happy with watching this football club this season so far? Have you watched one 90-minute performance and thought, that was brilliant?
No, I think, like I say, what I would say, and the boys, obviously, I asked them this as well. I'd say in spells, like I say, the 25 minutes against Chelsea, snippets against City. Yeah, I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we said overall 90 minutes. We've been impressed with performances. I don't think we can do. But Leon, let's come to you because feel free to answer that there from Frank as well. But as Frank picked up on Spurs against Arsenal, it's not a happy travelling ground for us. Arsenal have not lost a home game to Tottenham since 2010. Obviously, last season they won 2-1. So I just wonder psychologically and mentally for the players how much that actually does build into them. But it's a squad generally where there's a few new players there now. Does that build into them? Does it go into their head, or do you think really they look at this as another game? Arsenal aren't doing great, really. If you look at where Arsenal are in the league, Spurs should be going there without any fear and should be looking to go there and win the game. Am I fair to say that?
Yeah, well, I think Spurs should definitely be looking to go there and win the game. Yes, we haven't got the greatest record at the Emirates. Whether that plays on the players' minds, I'm not sure. I mean, at the end of the day, they're professionals and they're out there to win the football match that they're up to play. And the fact that it's a derby, the fact that it's Arsenal is big to us fans, and it will certainly be big to the players. It will be on their minds, but ultimately they're out there to play a game of football and make sure that they get the best result possible. And I think Nuno, yes, he's got to understand that rivalry, what it means to the fans. I don't think Wolves' rivalries. I don't think they match Spurs Arsenal in any way whatsoever. So he's got to understand that. And yeah, I like to answer Frank's question. Have I enjoyed watching Spurs this season? No, I haven't. I like Nuno as a guy, and the last time I was on this podcast, Ricky, we were top of the league. We just beat Watford, and everyone was all smiles, and it was going to be
never
great.
Going to last, was it? Never going to last.
It never lasts. But we did say at the time, look, Nuno's a nice guy. Nuno seems to have his head switched on. He's saying the right things, and if he is true in saying that he wants to play this expansive style of football, if he wants to get back to the Spurs DNA, then we've got to give him the time. We were so bad last season that it isn't going to happen overnight. It isn't going to be a miracle. He has to work with the players. He has to sell them his ideas, and we've got to give him the opportunity to do that. And if we can win against Arsenal or put in a good performance and come away with a point, then I think that gives him a good launch pad to sort of start the season proper. If we lose, and then we go into the next game after that playing some dour football and losing and failing to create chances, then people start looking at him and pressure starts to pile on. But I really do think we should be going there looking to win that game, given where we are in the league, where they are in the league. They aren't playing well. Okay, yes, that they're getting the results, but we already said it's against poor teams. We've been playing. We've got a result against City, I think we're there to take the 3 points. Let's hope we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, we do know, Jay's coming over to you, that I think barring a 2-goal swing, if Arsenal were to win it, they go above Tottenham in the league as well, which, we discussed Spurs' great start and Arsenal's poor start. I think it tells you everything in terms of the two clubs where they're at. So in that basis, James, I just wonder, if Nuno was to go to Arsenal and win, does that bide him? I'm not saying that he's going to get sacked next week or whatever like that, because, I mean, listen, he's at the start of the job and he's going to need time to actually have the full squad available to him, which he hasn't had yet in the job. But does that kind of just give him some time then to kind of not have to be concerned about the job so much, where he's got that win over Arsenal, that kind of get him the fans on side? Where do you see it for you, this game, in terms of what the importance is for Nuno?
Well, I think, first of all, the win tonight means we're not going into it as the club in crisis. That's the first thing. So there's not 4 days of negativity written about Tottenham going into the game that there would have been if we'd have gone out tonight. That's one big advantage. I think if you win there, then for sure, people will get off his back for a time, at least until you lose. If you lose at home to Aston Villa, it'll all be there again. But you hope that just some little bits of confidence, and you feel like he should be picking the best 11 available to him. And if you do that and you get a result, then a little bit of confidence comes back, and it's just the knock-on effect right the way through the club, isn't it? But the one thing that we, they are a poor side. There's no doubt about it. They're a poor side. But the one thing our record there is as bad as theirs at White Hart Lane as well. But the one thing that they always do for the home game, at least, they do always turn up for this. We absolutely stunk the place out last year. There's been times when we've been 2-0 up, when in the Pochettino era, when we're thinking we're a much better side than them. We've gone 1 up, we've gone 2 up, not held on. It was only a couple of years ago, wasn't it, when we were 2 up with a Kane and Ericsson scored, and we didn't do it. We had the famous... even Harry Redknapp's side, I know we came back, but the year later we go 2-0 up and lose 5-2 and things like that. For whatever, even in the 4-2 game where Guendouzi's banging on the car roof afterwards, Eric Dyer scored in that game. They need to put us 2-1 up or something. So they've always shown up, and they never drop their heads when they've gone behind in that game. So that's one thing we've got to be aware, and it's not a great week to be chucking away a 2-goal lead when the amount of leads we've chucked away at the Emirates is ridiculous. So we'll be tested with our character if we score first or we do take the lead. We have got to hold on to it this time, and not by sitting back, but by being composed. Maybe we get caught up a little bit ourselves at a derby and we lose our composure on the ball, and we just see the result. We're so hungry for the result that we make basic mistakes through being almost too hungry to get a result, too anxious. We kind of play it as the derby rather than the composed head. We're 1-0 up or 2-0 up against a crap side. So we should be able to see this out. And maybe it's a mentality thing that we've got to sort ourselves out there.
Okay, guys. Prediction time. Let's wrap this up. Let's come first to you, Frank. Nice and early. So we come to you first, mate. No one will remember this when the next time you're on. So you can get this one out of the way. What do you reckon, Frank?
Score draw. 1-0 or 2-0.
And you take that, Frank, yeah?
I'd take a point away there, regardless of their form. I would, because we don't. When do we ever win there? As Jason said, it's been 11 years since we won there, so I'd take a point all day long.
Okay, Leon, what are you going for?
Look, I'm ever the optimist. I think, again, harking back to that podcast, Ricky, the last time I was on the top of the league, I said we'd get top 4. I'm going to go 1-0. I'm going to go. I think we're going to go 1-0. I think if we can keep it tight at the back, we can nick one. I don't think they've got goals in them.
Do you know what's funny? 1-0 will be celebrated so much, people won't care if it's only 1-0. Even if it's only our second goal from open play, I think we'd take that.
It'll be a Kane penalty.
Yeah, no, it probably would be. I mean, it'd be good for Kane, though, wouldn't it? I think if Kane does score against them, to build on Jason's point earlier today, I do think what that would do for Kane is it would stop people hampering back to the summer if Kane does score against Arsenal and get the winner. So that's an interesting concept there. Jace, let's finish with you.
Well, I've read all week we're better off without Kane from so many people. So who wants to leave Kane out of Sunday's fixture?
Oh,
with his goal record there. Which one of the people that wants him left out is going to be brave enough to go to Arsenal without him?
No, I doubt
I think it'll be 2-1.
Spurs.
I don't know. It'll be 2-1. I honestly don't know. I was going to say I'll flick a coin, but I can't find a coin. And heads or tails?
Heads.
I won't tell you what it came down as.
Don't tell me.
There's 2 eggs on that coin, so
nice one. Okay,
2-1. I think there will be a winner. It will be 2-1. I'd say 55-45 in their favour.
Okay. Thank you so much, boys. Let me say a great thank you to, he's going to be regular on this podcast this season, for better or for worse, the great Frankie Major back on. Frank, thank you so much as always. Late night finish, but at least we're talking about a win, Frank.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me back on, mate. You know, I love doing this sort of stuff.
I know you do.
I look forward to the next time. I think I'm on in a few weeks. So
you are indeed for those conference nights, Frank. You know, Jason, Jason, you'll be paired up with Jason on many of these. Jason's
check a trade next week, isn't it?
Oh, great!
Oh, fantastic! Can't wait.
We've got Mora to come. Hopefully, it's not the injured version. We'll have to find out. We'll have to wait and see. But always better than Frank. But also looking forward to having back on regularly throughout the season. We've got Leon and Morali back as well. Leon, thank you so much as always. Always a pleasure having you on.
Likewise, thanks Ricky, and thanks Frank, thanks Jason. Good to chat with you boys.
Yeah, always makes it better, doesn't it, after a win. Always been great after a win. And Jace, thank you as always. It's Ryder Cup week for you now, so you're week off, is it?
Oh, next, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's one of my favourite sporting events. I absolutely love it. So the problem is kick-off time Sunday, so I'll have one on the phone, one on the TV, and if they're beating us, the TV will be the golf and just the phone will be on the football. But hopefully you boys, with respect, I won't be watching you Sunday night, mate, doing your last word on Spurs. I'll be glued to the golf by then. But hopefully you're talking about a 2-1 Spurs win.
Oh, man. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Well, listen, guys, for you watching us live, there's been a massive amount of people watching us live here at the moment. Bearing in mind, we're into the early hours of the morning. Thank you ever so much, as always, for all your support. We are back after Arsenal. Fingers crossed we are speaking about a Tottenham Hotspur win. But most importantly, as always, guys, keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you